Okay, it's the first time I'm using a microphone like this, and it's also a speech that I really haven't prepared. Unlike the opening plenary, which I agonized over in any case. It's nice to be able to walk around. This is going to be very brief. I actually just had 2 remarks, and the first is just regarding, within our midst, we've had the chance to realize that all around us are amazing role models. All around us are amazing figures that have qualities that inspire us and that really have demonstrated that leadership is action. And as I opened the conference with, at my Summer National Conference 2006, my first national conference, I realized that there was a whole other side of AISEC. From my perspective, I came with a mission-oriented view of the organization, and my mind was open to a whole side of the business that is AISEC. And it has been that new discovery that delegates at Summer National Conference 2006 guided me, that helped me bring the mission orientation and the business orientation together. And that is what created my AISEC experience. I just hope that all of you have found delegates at this conference that have opened up a new realm of AISEC to you, and that it can guide you on even more of an amazing AISEC experience than what I personally had. I just wanted to give a remark regarding role models, since I think it's really important. Something that I've noticed among my personal role models, a common attribute, is, well, many of my role models are women, and many of my role models are other people who, through circumstances of their environment, face undue challenges. People who are perhaps the victims of prejudice, perhaps the victims of other disabilities for whatever reason, and who are able to assume leadership nevertheless. And through AISEC, through my first 4 years in AISEC, including 3 years of leadership. By the way, this is raining. Through my first 4 years of AISEC, I was questioning how fulfilled I was as a leader. I was questioning if I really had achieved anything that was outside of my comfort zone in leadership, because I felt like I was a very privileged individual. I was working in an environment as somebody who was born in the United States, as a male, as somebody who is, well, half Caucasian and half Asian, and that doesn't really matter in the United States anymore, hooray. I felt like I really was not the victim of prejudice to any degree. And for that reason, my first 4 years of AISEC experience, really, I achieved tremendous things in leadership. I would not trade the experience for anything. But I somehow felt that I hadn't challenged myself completely enough, because I didn't really live up to my role models. My role models had overcome extreme prejudice and had overcome extreme challenges. I arrived in Uganda on the 3rd of July, 2009, and one of the first things that I learned upon coming back, okay, I had a very difficult time making the decision to come back to Uganda, first of all. And it was for this reason. Well, there's a lot of homophobia that is in Uganda, and specifically, AISEC in the past had nearly faced disbandment because a really extreme radio station in Uganda had found out that one individual who was prominent in a religious group happened to be a closeted homosexual and also happened to be an AISEC member. And there was a resulting media campaign by this extremist radio station against AISEC Uganda that nearly closed down the national organization. And the only way it was resolved is, at the time, the Africa director, who later went on to become PAI, that was Edson Dos Santos, commonly nicknamed Day. He was Africa director at the time. He actually came to Uganda, and he, as a gay man, closeted at the time, was able to talk to the appropriate university officials and resolve that situation so that AISEC Uganda could live on. I knew this history. I went back to do MC there, knowing that I would face some prejudice. What I didn't expect is that 3 months into my member committee term, there was a legislation proposed by David Bati, a member of parliament, that proposed to escalate the crime of homosexuality from what was already punishable by something like 15 years in prison to the crime of homosexuality being escalated to a death penalty. This bill, in my interpretation, is legalizing a genocide, and what I experienced in the coming months, the coming days and months after that bill was proposed, was what is rare in a country. It's national unity. And it was national unity in favor of the bill proposing the death penalty against homosexuals. And this is just coming into my turn, where I was embracing Ugandan culture. I was embracing the member committee as I was the only non-East African, and I was really proud to have fully integrated in what I considered my new home. Trying to learn the language as much as possible. You know I wanted to dance like a Ugandan, and all of the rest. And I faced a situation where I saw this demonstration of national pride and national unity around an issue that deeply, deeply felt like I was the victim of prejudice. As I went on in my term, I decided at that point I needed to be more open with my member committee. To that point, I had only come out with my sexuality to my roommate at the time, who happened to be the member committee president. He had been around at the time that there had been the AISESEC member accused of homosexuality by this radio station, and that AISESEC was almost shut down. In fact, he was recruited at that time, and he, from his recruitment in AISESEC, back in about 2006, had decided that he wanted to challenge himself in trying to overcome his prejudice of sexuality, because he as well was, as everyone else in East Africa for the most part, homophobic. And it was an amazing chance for me that my roommate and my boss in AISESEC was, from the beginning, very supportive of me in this regard. I further came out to other members of the member committee, and it was very smooth with the exception of one person on the member committee. By that time, I had told most of the other people, and I told the person in a joking way, as anyone can imagine. Like, as you communicate a tough issue, you sort of like to interject some humor, hopefully, etc. I was sort of like, it was an evening hangout, like 5 of the member committee people were around, and I just decided to see what was gonna happen. So I popped it up, and he first denied it. This was Wakibu Bunya, he's one of my closest friends. And he proceeded to just, in his disbelief, say, no, that's impossible. Like, what are you kidding? Like, you're lying. This is just not possible. It's not natural. And then continued to give a lot of statements that generally escalated to the point where one of my closest friends and teammates on the member committee was saying that if he had a knife at the moment, he would use it against me. I was rather disturbed by the general situation as one of my closest friends and team members reacted as such. And we finished the night still in denial, and the next weeks, and in fact, a few months, the topic was not brought up between me and my team member. We continued working in AISESEC. It was a fantastic team. As I have told everybody that I've spoken with, the best thing about my time in Uganda was I had a really amazing member committee team that I was working with. But it wasn't until about 3 months later, when Waki Bunya came back from a conference in Kenya, where he told me, Drew, yeah, you know, I really wanted to talk with you about something. At the conference that I just attended, I met somebody from East Africa who actually just made me realize something that I refused to realize before. And in this case, this East African delegate at the conference was open about being a homosexual, and it was the first time I had ever met an East African who was openly homosexual. And it made me realize that this is not a foreign thing. This is not something that was brought by colonialism. It's not some adulteration or a perversion of East African culture. Rather, it's something that's actually natural. And he apologized. And it was a really meaningful moment that, that I felt like, while I wasn't the catalyst for having overcome that, I at least sort of witnessed some of the change. So in any case, I just wanted to comment, because as an AISESEC leader, I really didn't face the prejudice and challenges that I know many people in this room have already faced. For those of you who have overcome instances of prejudice, instances of any sort of challenge, I really salute you. And I am grateful as well to AISESEC that AISESEC has enabled me this experience to be able to have that challenge, to be able to work in an environment where I represent a country that had a lot of challenges against me, and to be able to overcome that and continue to work in my team and to achieve some fantastic results. So I'd like to conclude by telling a brief story about, guess what? About farming. It's my third farming story. You know I'm an Iowa boy. And the farming that I'm going to talk about today is about an apple orchard. It's actually a story about one individual apple seed that had a dream. The apple seed wanted to reach all the way to the sky and the stars. This apple seed started out having been cast randomly, and first of all, had to find an environment in which it could grow. Eventually it did, it was a fortunate one, and it found its place in the soil and began to germinate. It sent out its roots, it sent out its sprout and its first leaves, and it overcame that learning curve that you all also experienced and are going to continue to experience in AISESEC. And as it grew into an apple tree, it had a passion, it had a vision to reach up its trunk as tall as it could, to spread out its branches, to produce the luscious leaves, the most amazing apples, and one day be able to reach the sky, one day be able to reach the stars. The tree continued to grow through a lot of hardship. There was drought. There were challenges of the orchard being threatened to be cut down. There were threats of all types and natures, as everybody experiences in whatever pursuit of dreams that they may have. And there actually came a day that the apple tree grew so old that it actually thought that it had failed to achieve its dream in life. You know, as much as it kept on growing taller and taller, it could never reach the sky, and it could never reach the stars. And it wasn't until there was actually a really young individual who decided to do something a bit unorthodox. And I'm going to do that for you right now. I have 3 apples up here, and this is one of the apples from that tree. What the individual did was just do something violent, do something abrupt. I have a knife in my other hand, and I'm cutting the apple. I'd like somebody to help me pass this around on this side of the room. Daddy? Thanks. So, as I walk around, I just want to show you what is inside the apple like this. So in essence, what the young child did in a drastic, extreme way to be able to disrupt one of the fruits of the tree actually made the tree realize that all along, inside its own fruit, was a star. And that instead of looking up to the sky and the stars to be able to achieve the dreams already long ago, that apple seed had created many stars within itself. So with that, I just wanted to switch blazers tonight. And say that all of you in Summer National Conference 2010 have already revealed to me that inside, this sleeve is not working. Inside, you are all stars, and you are all... There we go. You are already achieving on the inside what I am sure are your dreams. And I salute you. Thank you, Summer National Conference.